All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now, Montreal's executive committee greenlit a $12.8 million planning contract yesterday, kicking off Projet Montréal's divisive $89 million overhaul of the road splitting Mount Royal. But many are slamming the decision to start the Camillien Hou redesign, citing pushback from the 2019 public consultation. That consultation, over 12,000 people, recommended keeping traffic flowing over the mountain, but with lower speed limits and a revamped Camillien Hou to boost safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Let's get the city's case on this one. Alex Norris is an executive committee member and associate councillor for Large Parks and Mount Royal. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Elias.
Listen, I don't want to say you're in hostile territory when it comes to this issue, because I try and see both sides, but I got to be honest, and I hear it from listeners. They really enjoy driving over the mountain. It is a bit of a joy. I know it's a joy in my life. I absolutely love that drive, and I want to keep that thing happening. I want to keep driving over the mountain because I love it so much. Why don't you make your case? What is the case for this revamp of Camillien Hou?
Well, I enjoy driving over the mountain, too, when I'm behind the wheel of a car. But this is a commuter shortcut that cuts through our most beautiful, iconic park, and it is dangerous for people who are on foot or other vulnerable users of the roadway, people who are in wheelchairs, people who are on bikes. The solution that we have settled upon represents a compromise. You're right that there was a public consultation that was held in 2018. However, there had been a previous consultation also held by the OCPM in 2008 that recommended cutting through traffic through the park. The more recent consultation, there wasn't just one recommendation, there were 16 recommendations, and many of those recommendations were mutually incompatible, given the space available. The OCPM didn't just recommend maintaining vehicular traffic on that road. It also recommended making the road safe for vulnerable users of the roadway, people on foot, on bikes, and in the narrow space between the cliffs at the top or near the top of Camillien Hou Way, there just isn't enough space to include two vehicular lanes, a bidirectional bike path, a median separating the bike path from those lanes, and sidewalks. Mm-hmm. We would have had to take out the dynamite and blast away at the cliffs to make a wider roadway to fit all of that in. Mm-hmm. And I think that would have also produced an uproar, and quite rightly so. People love Mount Royal and want to see the park made more beautiful and greener.
Okay, I just want to push back just on one thing, right? On the notion that this road cuts through the park. Now, as I see it, I'm looking at the map, right? You have Camillien Hou Way. One side is Mount Royal Park. The other side is the cemeteries.
No, that's not accurate, Elias.
Okay, well, tell me why.
The road, because if you start at the corner of Camillien Hou and Mount Royal Boulevard, you will see park on both sides. There is a large forest on the Outremont side of the park that is part of Mount Royal Park, that is cut off, that is separated physically from the rest of the park by this roadway. And, I remember when my kids were young, crossing that roadway on foot to pass from one side of the forest to the other. People doing that were taking their lives in their hands. It's very dangerous. And there's a trend throughout North America in major cities to reduce the presence of cars in major centrally located parks. You have to understand that the number of visitors to Mount Royal Park has exploded in recent decades. Back in 1987, there were 3 million visits that were recorded to Mount Royal Park. Mm-hmm. By 2006, that had risen to 5 million visits. Last year, we were up to 7.5 million visits to the park. That is putting incredible pressure on the park. In 2001, we had counted more informal trails cutting through the forest, damaging the ecosystem than there were formal.
But are you saying part of this is to reduce the amount of people coming to Mount Royal?
It's to recognize that there are more visitors on Mount Royal than there have ever been in the past, mm-hmm. and those visitors need more places to go. They're crammed onto Olmsted Road. There are conflicts between cyclists and pedestrians. People are cutting through the forest and damaging the undergrowth, damaging the ecosystem.
Yeah.
For more places to walk and to enjoy themselves, And this is a compromise solution that maintains vehicular access right into the heart of the park, maintains bus access right into the heart of the park. The parking lots are being maintained. There are going to be increased numbers of parking spaces for disabled people, for families. So this is really a compromise, that there is no solution to this problem.
But
that would satisfy
here's
everybody.
the thing. Here's the thing. It seems like every time we talk about compromise, because this, and by the way, as someone that has defended certain bike paths in the city many times on the show, I get the heat, right? But it seems like every time we got to make compromise, who's on the outs? The compromise is cars, you have to go. And you know, so I don't know if I would call it a compromise if, like, the one type of user, again, it's a lovely drive and a little joy in life that a lot of people have, goes by the wayside.
And people will even have more joy walking up a magnificent pedestrian promenade under the shade of mature trees without having the threat of constant traffic roaring by them, the noise, the pollution, the danger that represents. You have to look at, there were similar backlashes. I agree. Not everyone agrees with this, but contrary to some of the things you've said on your show, not everyone is opposed to this project by any means. There are many. The Director of Public Health of Montreal endorsed it. The UN Secretariat for Biodiversity, the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, Équiterre, the Conseil Régional de l'Environnement, and I'm getting lots of positive comments from people who agree with this project.
Alex, of course, but this is the thing, right? Like everyone that you mentioned, they're on one side of this. Of course, they're going to be in favor. And again, I've never been in Mount Royal, anywhere, sitting, enjoying myself, and it's like there's cars right next to me roaring by. That's not where Camillien Hou Road is.
Camillien Hou Lookout recently, because that's the situation there. It is basically a parking lot with cars, yes, roaring by. It is dangerous to cross that road. It is dangerous for people in wheelchairs, on bikes, and on foot. It cuts the mountain in two, and vehicular access will be maintained, as I say, right into the heart of the park. It's a minor detour for people coming from the east side, and for most people on the island of Montreal, it will make no difference at all in terms of travel time.
What do you say to the cemeteries that say they've got an agreement, they've got it in black and white and paper, that you can't cut off access the way you're planning to?
We do not share their analysis, and our door is open. We have invited the people at the cemetery to sit down and join us on a working group to work out all of these technical issues. We are convinced that all of the issues they have raised can be solved. They're technical issues. Earlier on, there were objections that were raised by the fire department, who said that we need an emergency access route. We sat down with the fire department and we worked it out, and the fire department has given their stamp of approval to this project. We're convinced we can do the same thing with the cemetery.
And what about cost here? We're facing budgets where we see municipal taxes go up, property taxes go up. This is a $90 million project. And I hear from listeners that say there's got to be other priorities to spend $90 million on. What do you say to that?
I have to emphasize that the $89 million budget, it includes not only Camillien Hou, but also the very dangerous intersection, four-way, where four roads, Côte St. Catherine, Montmoreau Boulevard, Park Avenue, and Camillien Hou, all join. People have been killed at that intersection. That is part of the work that is going to be done in this contract, as well as all the work that's already started on a remembrance. So it's a major project, and it's in line with the cost of, redoing roads throughout the city. There was a consensus at the OCPM that the status quo is inadequate. It is unsafe. People have been killed on that road. At the bottom of that hill, a young man was killed just recently. There was Clément Ouimet, who lost his life in 2017. Something needs to be done to make that road safer. And in all scenarios, Elias, the costs would be similar. We could have built an urban boulevard, blasted out the space between the cliffs, and had multiple lanes.
Well, and I just want to say, Alex, listen, I got to wrap up. Nobody's asking for multiple lanes. Like I don't want it to be a highway either.
That's inaccurate. That people want it to be safe for all users. I get it that you enjoy being behind the wheel of a car, and there are people who who experience the road that way, but we have to look out for all users of the roadway, not just people in vehicles.
Listen, I just want to point out. I just want to point out the majority of the times that I go to Mount Royal, it's on foot and walking into the park. But I also enjoy that drive, and I'm thinking, one single lane each direction is something that shows, hey, drivers, you can also enjoy the mountain. I have a yes or no question to wrap up, and it really has to be yes or no. To you, right, this issue, ballot box November, is this a winning issue for your party?
I think it is. I think that I've received a lot of positive feedback on this proposal, and I think that that it will be a winning issue, and that people are coming around to see just how magnificent it will be to expand Mount Royal Park from within. I think it will be something that meets the needs of all Montrealers. People will continue to be able to access the park in private vehicles, by bus. We'll improve access all the way around. We're going to improve public transit access to the park. It will be magnificent. And I think that once this project is over, people will look back and say, how did we ever allow our jewel of a park to be a shortcut for commuters?
It was a yes-no question, but I'll take it. Have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elias.
Alex Norris from the City of Montreal.